In the chaos of 20th century warfare, a new kind of watch is born. Rugged, reliable, and easy to read in the worst conditions. It was called the field watch. Before the First World War, pocket watches were the standard, but on the battlefield, pulling out a watch from your coat wasn't just an inconvenience, it could be deadly. Soldiers began modifying their pocket watches, adding leather straps to wear them on their wrists. These early trench watches were the true ancestors of what we now call field watches. These watches shared key traits: high legibility, robust cases, and reliability. The focus wasn't luxury, it was survival. By the end of the Second World War, the wristwatch had evolved further. Armies issued standardized watches, setting the blueprint for modern field watches: simple, sturdy, and supremely functional. Whether American GIs or British infantrymen, soldiers wore watches that prioritized one thing above all else: performance in the field. Today's field watches continue that legacy. They're not about flash, they're about reliability when you need it most. From the trenches of World War I to your next adventure, the spirit of the field watch endures. A watch born for the battlefield and built for life beyond it. In 1952, Tudor launched an ambitious project, the British North Greenland Expedition, equipped with specially made Tudor watches. These explorers ventured into one of the harshest climates on Earth. Though the Ranger name had not yet appeared, the DNA was there: robustness, reliability, and simplicity. In the 1960s, the Ranger officially entered the scene with its bold Arabic numerals at 3, 6, 9, and 12. No frills, no flash, just clarity, legibility, and durability. A watch meant to be read at a glance, even in the toughest environments. It was built for those who needed a tool watch they could trust in the wild. Over time, the Tudor Ranger became a cult classic, celebrated for its utilitarian look and rugged spirit, even as it remained one of Tudor's more understated creations. In 2022, Tudor revived the Ranger, staying true to its roots, with vintage-inspired design, updated with modern movements and craftsmanship. A tribute to the past, built for today's adventurers. So today we're going to take a look at a watch that I've lusted for ever since it was introduced. I believe it was introduced in 2022, and I've always wanted to get my hands on one of these things. I'm actually wearing a watch that I bought to kind of help me cope with the fact that I wasn't going to buy this watch that I'm about to show you. And this is a Certina DS Podium. Sort of gives you an idea of what's coming. So, the watch I want to talk about today is obviously a Tudor, as you can see. It's the Tudor Ranger. The new Tudor Ranger, obviously not the one from the late teens. That was way too big in my opinion, and most people's opinions. This is the newest version, again introduced in around 2022. Kind of goes back to a slightly smaller size, given its 39mm size, which I think is a good happy medium, given that the original Ranger was like maybe 34mm, a little small for today's standards. But let me talk about the new. I believe this is the new Tudor box. It's a little. It's sort of. I mean they're calling it this box is made of recycled materials. It doesn't feel as solid as my original boxes. This is just like, so maybe slightly nice. This is pretty nice cardboard, you could say, obviously making it very recyclable. It's certainly a downgrade from what I would call, from the original boxes. Obviously you're just, who keeps using their box? So you just kind of put it back in the drawer or whatever. So, I mean, not just an observation. The new style, the new recyclable box is a downgrade. But whatever. Let's talk about the watch. Let's get this off of here. So, this watch, I did not buy this watch for me. A friend of mine, a good friend of mine, friend of like 18 years, is getting married. And obviously, I pitched to my wife, well, what better present to get my friend? He's also my wife's friend, of course, and his wife is my wife's friend. So I wanted to get him something kind of nice. This guy, again, good friend. He hasn't had a nice watch. I think he has like a Seiko or something. So he is interested in watches, and I thought, why not? Obviously, I'm not going to spend. There was somewhat of a limited budget, but I managed to get this watch for a really good deal. So like almost $1,000 off MSRP, and it's in like new condition. Basically, it looks like somebody just wore it twice and then, I don't know, traded in for something else. When I was trying to think of a watch that would suit my friend who's an avid traveler, I think he's the kind of guy that's been to pretty much, you know, he's traveled throughout Asia, to Thailand. I think he's even been to like the Philippines. He's been throughout Europe. He's been to South America. This guy's all over the place. Probably been to Australia too. So I figured, what better watch that, you know, I was actually thinking about getting maybe like a Black Bay 58, but I couldn't find one. But you know, that's sort of like, oh, you know, another dive watch. You know, I wanted to get him something that suited him more. This is like the explorer's watch. It's meant to be used to explore. It's like it's a land watch, but it's a watch that can be used on an expedition, that kind of thing. And it's a simple time only watch, as you can see, with, you know, very legible dial, very easy to read in nighttime, very, very useful loom. Everything is loomed. There appears to be no raised markers here on the dial, which, you know, probably my one knock on the watch. I think the loom is kind of an interesting color. It's sort of like a very light green hue to it. It's not like your pure white loom color. It has a screw down crown, of course, and I'm pretty sure that this shares the same case as the Black Bay 58 anyway. So you're sort of getting, in a way, a Black Bay 58 just without the dagger bezel. But it comes with all the functionality, including the screw down crown, which still has the Tudor rose, which is different from the previous model. Actually had the Tudor rose on the dial, which was 41mm one with the straight linked bracelet, which very controversial. I think this one has a little bit of red on the seconds hand, which nice little bit of tasteful red on it. A very simple dial layout with just Ranger on it. I love it. I love how clean this design is, and I've lusted over this watch for a long time. It kind of, when I got the watch and I saw it for the first time, not for the first time, I've tried it on a couple of times before. You know, when I received the watch, I sort of had like a Bilbo Baggins moment, like with the One Ring.
Why shouldn't I keep it? My precious.
He's saying, why shouldn't I keep it? That's how crazy this watch hobby is, and how much it's got me, like, you know, by the, you know what's. I've always been attracted to these very simple dials, very simple time only watches. I just like the simplicity and the purposefulness of it, that it's just meant to do one thing and do one thing well, tell time, and do it well in all situations, day or night. It's a tough watch. It's not, there's nothing polished on this watch. It's the perfect finish for a tool watch. Everything's brushed. You know, you get the bezels brushed, the whole case is brushed, you know, the bracelet, the entire bracelet is brushed, the clasp is brushed, even the point itself is brushed, which I haven't seen before in any Tudor. I've never seen a Tudor with a brushed point. Please correct me in the comments if you know of one, but I've never seen one. They've always been polished. But that's what I don't know. I could be wrong. Obviously, this watch is. I'm not sure if this is the first one with the first watch that was introduced with the T-Fit clasp, but it's still a fantastic feature to have in your clasp, and still class leading in my opinion, given the price. This watch, being that it's, I think it's currently trading for about $3,400, $3,450, I believe. It's certainly crept up in price. I think when they introduced it, it was about $3,000 flat, $3,050. So it's gone up by $400. You know, inflation's a bitch. You know, what can you do? Obviously, your typical solid case back there, very nice. I like this watch now more than I ever have, and it's very hard for me to just, you know, let it go, and you know let Gandalf take the One Ring and.
I think you've had that ring quite long enough.
Off on its adventure and for the Lord of the Rings or whatever. You know, it's my precious. You know, but whatever. I guess this is going to be one that's on my list to try to get one day for myself. Even though I do think it's the perfect watch for my friend. I think it could be the perfect watch for me too. In that vein, I wanted to bring out the watch that when this watch came out, I coped with it by first of all, I bought this watch, but I also already had this ball. So I said, what watch in my collection that sort of gives me that vibe. This gives me the same vibe as the Tudor Ranger here, and I already had this ball. This is the titanium watch. Pretty much everything is brushed on it except for the bezel, of course. But it sort of has a similar vibe to it, and yeah, you know, it's sort of, you know, having them side by side now makes me appreciate the ball even more, even though it's a much busier dial. I mean, if you've seen a ball watch, this is what they look like. They're sort of busy, and they have their typical tritium lume tubes, which are fantastic, and you know, they're always glowing. So and they're still glowing really strong, these things. I love the class and the elegance and the simplicity of the Tudor Ranger. It's just, I love it. And obviously I like my ball as well. But I brought out a couple of other watches. So I broke out a couple of other watches from my collection just to kind of go over. I like to do that when I'm looking at a new watch, that sort of give me, believe it or not, there's more similarities to these watches than you think. Number one, the Black Bay 58925. As you can see, basically the same case there. They share, except I think the 925 is a little thicker, and obviously it's made of silver. But I think they share the same case, as you can see. It's like, if you look at them like side by side there, it's pretty much the same. And then, that's something that, you know, a lot of watch manufacturers do. They make a case and they kind of like reconfigure it with a different dial style or a different bezel and call it a completely brand new watch. And that's sort of what another thing that they share. It's one thing they do to cut costs and, you know, streamline their production and stuff. But another thing that they share in common is the fact that they have the same movement. The 925 has the same movement as the Ranger. This is the cheapest watch you can buy on the Tudor catalog currently with this movement, which is kind of a, you know, if you want to get into their Kinesi like in-house movements, then yeah, the Ranger is the cheapest way in, and it is a hell of a nice watch to do that, in my opinion. If you're not one to go diving, or if you don't necessarily need a diver's watch, this is a great watch to get. The fact that it's fully brushed and so nicely brushed and finished, I think it's a winner. I can understand the attraction to the Black Bay 58. I get it. This is my 925, and yes, they share some similarities, believe it or not. This watch, my Tudor Prince, I'm breaking it out because they believe this watch has more. If you go back to the history of the Ranger, the Ranger was introduced in the early 1960s. They sent a Tudor Oyster Prince on an expedition to Greenland. Has stronger roots in the history of Tudor than what obviously this new Tudor Ranger, which is a dressed up Black Bay 58. Beautiful one, all that, you know, I love it. But this sort of like a Tudor Ranger in name only. This is like what I would consider to be the watch. It more closely resembles the watch that actually went on that Greenland expedition. And, you know, I just wanted to break it out, and I like showing it off whenever I can. I love this watch. So I think the 1926 is the only other watch in the Tudor catalog. It probably has a little more in common with that watch that went on that expedition to Greenland, and maybe even their early Rangers, is the 1926, because it has a ETA-based movement or a Sellita-based movement. It has, it has the smiley dial. I mean, the original Ranger was sort of like they just made a few changes to the Oyster Prince and called it a Ranger, and, you know, this is the closest thing to an Oyster Prince that you can get right now, brand new from Tudor, that sort of has that vibe to it, you know, that sort of like entry level, everyday watch that you can wear, and then, not really worry about, am I going to scratch the thing or whatever, because it's not terribly expensive. This Ranger is significantly more expensive than this watch. Obviously, the 1926 comes in different sizes. This is the 41. It does come in a 39, which, more closely matches the Ranger. But again, I sort of have to give it to the Ranger. I think this is the one to get. If you're looking for a really nice time-only watch that Tudor currently makes, and it's not necessarily a diver, I think the Ranger is a winner. I can highly recommend this watch, and I really like it, and it's going to be on my list for the future for myself. But I really hope my friend likes it, and that is the look at the Ranger. So let me know if you have any questions about this watch or any watch that I brought out today, my ball as well. It really helps a lot if you can like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.